Mr. Comrie and Mrs. Reed, it's Emily, and I am back home. I'm back home with my fat little kitty named Sweet Pea. Say hi, Sweet Pea. And my other pet bunny, the amazing little dwarf rabbit named Bunny. Of course, when we got home, Susie wasn't very happy with me. He was good to be cuddled for about a minute, and then he started attacking me in every way possible because he was so angry at me for leaving him for so very long. Anyways, as you know, I have sent you guys 10 videos, and they're 10 corresponding scripts, and also many extra pictures. And so this video is just a summarization of each of the countries I went to, like things that I learned, my highlights, things that I've never done before, and there were many, and also my favorite foods or snacks from each country. So our first stop was in New Zealand. We left on May 11th, 2014, and I learned lots of things in New Zealand. Like I learned about Maori history, and I had never even heard of the Maori people before we left. I learned how to cook the most delicious thing in the world called steam box lunches. And I also realized that Auckland is like a miniature Vancouver. It's a coastal city, and it has the same kind of weather, like in the winter especially, because they don't get snow, they get rain, so it's kind of gray and rainy like Vancouver. And then it also has a mini tourist attraction island. Vancouver has Vancouver Island, and Auckland has many different islands, but the most visited is the island of Devonport. And coincidentally enough, Devonport was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to, and they had the most delicious fish and chips in the world. They were just so good. And it was beautiful seeing all the houses and everything, but it was crazy because a 500 square foot house or 600 square foot house would cost $900,000. I'm like, no thanks you. And my other highlights were going to the traditional Maori hangi dinner, which is where they do traditional dances. And then you have this huge buffet of food, and you go around the village and everything. So that was amazing. And one of my favorite things in New Zealand was going to see the famous Hobbiton movie set where they filmed the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit. So it was so cool to be able to go into Bilbo Baggins' Hobbit hole and be like, I have been there. A couple things I've never done before were seeing glowworms, which were absolutely beautiful. You go into a cave, and you have to be really quiet so that you don't scare them. And there are like a million tiny little lights just flickering everywhere, and it's just beautiful. And also skydiving. It was scary, it was crazy, and it was so much fun, and I would definitely do it again. And I'm going to be really honest and say that I was terrified. Like, going up into we got a video taken of me, so going up into the plane, you can see I'm really scared because I'm constantly doing my hair to make sure that it's perfect. And then my face is just white, and I looked like a ghost. And then when we fell out of the plane, I was like, but I had lots of fun. So that was lots of fun, and my favorite meal in New Zealand was the steam box lunch again, which was like corn and like really good New Zealand potatoes and chicken and all the yummies. And in Samoa, I also learned a lot of things, and in Samoa, I learned a lot of things, like their way of life, especially their way of life. It was so interesting because one of the main things that stuck out for me was right by one of the places we were staying, a group of young boys, like 7 to like 13, would go, and they would go fishing to like collect clams and like fish and whatnot. and they would use old like rum bottles and with fishing string or just regular string. They'd put it in the water to catch a fish, and they had like a great big milk carton, milk jug with the top cut off, and it was what they used to hold their clams that they brought home to their moms. It was really cool to be able to like meet the locals and everything. And I also learned how to open a coconut, which was a pretty dangerous thing because coconuts became my new favorite food in the world. They were just so good, and I had maybe 3 or 4 a day. And I also learned that although many Samoans are really poor, nobody will ever go hungry because, say, if I have a really bad crop this year and my neighbor has a really good one, I could go to my neighbor and say, could I borrow some food until I get a good crop? And then you just pay them back with, like, food or if you have some money. And so they're never hungry. My highlights were going to the traditional Fia Fia nights, which were nights of dancing and fun and maybe fire knife dances, which were really cool and really, really, really hot because they were just twirling around batons full of fire, and it was pretty cool, but also a bit scary as well. Also, swimming in the South Pacific Ocean was just amazing because the water was so blue and clear and beautiful, and it wasn't too warm. It was a like kind of perfect temperature to swim because outside it was so hot, about 30 degrees and about 90% humidity, so it was crazy. And also, meeting the locals, as I said, was one of the best things ever in Samoa because everybody in Samoa is just so kind and generous, and like if you order eggs at a restaurant and they don't have any, they won't say, oh, sorry, we don't have any eggs. They'll actually go to the market and buy more eggs just to make you your omelet. So the locals were absolutely amazing, and everybody, if you had a camera, a dozen kids would just swarm around you to get their pictures taken, and they were always smiling and just having fun. And every time we saw them, they were like all in their school uniforms because they loved going to school and being able to learn. So that was amazing. Couple things I've never done before. I had never seen a cockroach before going to Samoa, and I nearly died of a heart attack. My heart stopped and I just screamed because it scared me so much, and it was a very difficult night the first time I saw a cockroach. But on a more sad note, I had never seen so many stray animals than when we were in Samoa. There were hundreds of stray dogs and cats, and lots of them were starving and dying, so that was really difficult for me to see that. But and they were also terrified of people because the locals thought that they were bad, so they would like throw rocks at them, and then the dogs would become like mean, but they were really quite terrified. And my favorite food, as previously mentioned, were the coconuts. I had about 4 a day, and they were about 3 Samoan tala each, and for 1 Samoan tala, it's 50 cents. So yeah, they were so good. And then after I drank the coconuts, I would get all the meat taken out, and I would eat the meat, and it was yummy, yummy, yummy. And moving on to Laos. One of the major things that I learned in Laos was the importance of daily life along the Mekong River, and the Mekong River is the filthiest river that I've ever seen in my life. It is like the color of liquid, like really watery mud, and it's quite gross, but the local people use it to fish and to like go swim and whatnot. I also learned about different plants and dyes that people use, like when they are making silk things. They'll take their silk and then they'll dye it using just different plants, like indigo plants. And you crush the leaves, and my fingers were stained blue for about a week after that. And it was also amazing to learn how they make like their silk scarves and all of their many handicrafts. Like for my grandfather, we bought him a knife about this long, the blade, and the handle was about this long. And it was amazing because they actually took the metal from a scrap, like a junk car, and they took it from the fender, and they made it right while we were there, and they connected the blade to the wooden handle, which was a beautiful wooden handle, by using tree sap. So it was lots of fun to be able to watch them make it and how they sharpen it so well. It was really, really amazing. Some of my highlights from Laos were going to the MacFet dinner. The MacFet dinner was really interesting because you go to the restaurant and it's all the like waiters and waitresses are underprivileged kids, like orphans or people living on the street and uneducated maybe. And so it was amazing to do that because they were all so friendly, even though they didn't really speak much English. They were really amazing, and they took great pride in the job that they did, and the food was so yummy. I also really enjoyed, we did a Mekong riverboat ride for 2 days. So we'd take the long boat. It was maybe 50 meters or 60 meters long, and we'd go for maybe 6 or 7 hours a day along the Mekong to get from destination to destination for about 3 days. And it was really amazing to see the landscape and the people along the riverbanks doing their daily life, and also the water buffaloes. My mom was in love with the water buffaloes. They're like gentle giants. They're so amazing. And my last highlight for Laos was going to the Cope Center, which is to help victims of like the bombies, the miniature bombs that are dropped, and children find them every day. People find them every day, and they're killed because the children think that, oh, look, it's a fruit that our mothers give us to eat. So they start to toss it around, and eventually it'll blow up. And so it was really, really, really sad for me to go and see that and see all the pictures and videos and whatnot, because what actually happened is during the Vietnam War, or the American War, depending on how you look at it, American bomber planes that weren't able to release their bombs on Vietnam, instead of landing back in their base with the bombs, it was just too much work, they dropped the bombs onto the innocent people of Laos. And they killed thousands and thousands of people. It was absolutely horrible, and the people couldn't fight back. It was a totally one-sided crime against humanity. So being able to see images of victims and all that, it was really sad, but it was also a great learning experience for me. And a couple things I've never done before were ziplining. I've never done ziplining before, and I was actually pretty scared to do it in like a third world country, because there's not much safety procedures taken on construction sites. There are people walking around in flip-flops, but it was lots of fun. We did a rope course with maybe 16 different lines, and it was lots of fun to go. And at the